Welcome to Chapter 74 of the Melbourne Strength Culture Presents Quantum Lifting Podcast. And today, back to an in-house episode. Just my fellow co-worker, Didier Vassou, joining me. And
G'day.
how are you, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. Cruising. I'm slamming lots of caffeine today. I'm onto my
Saw that, yeah.
Monster and second coffee already. Had 2 coffees and a Monster.
Slamming.
Getting, trying to caffeinate my way out of lockdown demotivation. So we're going to use this episode to start plugging the Melbourne Strength Culture Strength Congress, which we ran last year. It was a really successful event. Obviously, we would have liked to have had it in-house at a theatre like we did last year. We had 100 people at a Deakin lecture theatre. Unfortunately, with the current climate, we can't do that. So we will be doing it online via Zoom, which potentially, hopefully, opens it up to a greater audience. So before we get stuck into that, I'm just going to go through the topics quickly for anyone that hasn't seen the posts on the Instagram. But we have a few guest speakers as well as the in-house coaches and Dan, the physio. So starting with myself, I'll be going through the processes of learning, motor learning and the process behind developing new skills, the brain and neural network development, habit development strategies for learning. Then we've got Didier, bodybuilding, the antidote to powerlifting, the importance of muscle mass in powerlifting / strength training, injury prevention and off-season strategies, early specialization equals short-term gains, long-term headaches. Jamie Buziotis, the case and methods for training Gen Pop as athletes, building a bigger aerobic engine, the energy system for life, the utility of plyometrics and power training for general population, removing your powerlifting goggles as a coach. Then Dan Godiasi, our in-house physio, rehabilitation principles for strength coaches, key features of trustworthy allied health professionals, managing minds, understanding client psychology, managing loads, building performance whilst navigating pain. And then Jamie Smith, the most common mistakes young strength coaches make, strategies to better understand and manage business finances, organic marketing and content creation strategies for success, the mindset needed to build a self-supportive business. And then our guests, so we have Luke Tulloch talking on introspective analysis, cognitive biases, the problem with reality. And then Rasheen Hawley, the owner of Barbell Babes Brigade, managing yourself as a business owner, how to manage your mindset to be able to operate effectively as a business owner, bearing the emotional load of business ownership, how to manage and mitigate burnout. And then from JPS, Lyndon Purcell, overcoming group think and industry tribalism, the role of culture in your development and the issue of groupthink, active, open-minded thinking as a tool for growth and an antidote to dogmatism. How language and other differences can magnify perceived dissimilarities, which hinders communication and knowledge sharing. And we can confirm, we do have, that was a lot of words, we can confirm that Bryce Krawczyk is in from Calgary Barbell. Don't have his topic solidified in stone yet, but we will get that to you. I'm sure you'll see that on Instagram. That was a lot of words there. Over to you, Didier.
I'll let you have a breather.
Have a breather. How was your experience at the Strength Congress last year? Not really having done much. Actually, neither of us had really done that much presenting in that big of a crowd, 100 people. How was your experience last year?
It was funny. You'd obviously done a few seminars and stuff before the Congress, but for me, that was really my first kind of speaking engagement. So I just thrown right into the deep end, but it was good. And it's funny, just thinking back, obviously 2020 has been so long, so it feels like last year was so long ago. So we probably aren't thinking a lot about what happened last year. But now with this year's Congress approaching, just looking back at some of the photos and thinking about last year, I think like we've forgotten and maybe taken for granted just how good it was last year. It really was a milestone for all of us, I think. It was really enjoyable. It was just great to have so many people there, get the positive feedback. and just get the chance just to all share our ideas on the different topics we were discussing. Yeah, so obviously this year's going to be online, but it'll be good. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I think for me personally, as you said, I had done a few seminars with Jamie, but really in front of only 20, 25 people, to have such a big crowd, be this, the focal point, the only person up there, was a new experience for me too. And it was a little bit daunting. I remember there was quite a few nerves, and I was kind of like wanted to just get it over with. But after doing it, I really, really did enjoy it. And again, it was another chance to grow and get better at talking and presenting. And it's something I would like to do more of in the future. And this is the whole concept behind the Strength Congress, is to give us in-house coaches, a chance to talk about different topics that we don't really, it's just away from sort of your mainstream, oh, this is programming or this is what the body does. It's different topics that can sort of help other coaches and people with their development of their own businesses and their own coaching systems. And also a chance to present in front of a larger crowd, which is a really cool experience. So obviously this year will be a bit different with the Zoom, being on Zoom, but hopefully we can get a few more people in there. So if you haven't bought your tickets as well, jump on that, because it really does help us and support us. We've had a lot of people that have asked how to support us in this time of lockdown, where we can't have the physical doors open, and this is one way that you can support us. So this year, what was so quickly, let's touch on your topic last year. Your topic last year was building a culture, and then we'll go on your topic this year. We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So last year I talked about building a culture and the soft skills of coaching. So I kind of just talked about how we've created what we have as strength culture, why our idea of the culture of the gym being inside the walls as well as outside of the walls is so important to everything we do, and everything we do kind of comes back to that. And then additionally, I talked about the soft skills of coaching, which wraps in with culture as well, but just kind of talking about the importance of things other than the X's and O's of programming and anatomy, just basically the people skills, communication skills, why we should all be spending more time focusing on them, and why they're so important to our role as a coach. And obviously now with lockdown, nothing's changed. Like, even though we're not coaching people in person, our ability to communicate, our ability to have connections with our clients, it's as important as ever, especially given that we can't communicate in person. Like, obviously we can jump on a phone or whatever, but a lot of this is happening through text or email, Facebook groups. So those connections that we've built are now just allowing us to flourish, because we've spent all that time in the past developing our culture, developing, our soft skills as coaches. This year, so I'm talking about bodybuilding, the antidote to powerlifting. So I'm pretty much going to discuss the importance of muscle mass for powerlifters. That, as well as just the importance of training like a bodybuilder. The benefit of getting more muscle is obviously massive, but it's not just that. Just spending some time not training like a powerlifter has a great use for us. And it's something that we do, but I think it's something we could even do more so, because we definitely already have phases of training where we try and move away from the big lifts. But I think increasingly over time, we're realizing we can afford to move further away, and our off seasons now are starting to look less and less like powerlifting. They're looking less and less like the big three, because we've realized that developing technique obviously is important, but it's not that difficult. Once you've got your base, there's only so much more technique you're going to be able to develop. Your ability to progress over the long term is more than likely going to be, building muscle is going to be a major part of that, because once your technique develops from a beginner, you see a sharp increase when you start working with a strength coach, but then it's going to start to kind of plateau off. There's always going to be more technique improvements to make, but it's not like there's going to be massive things. Like, the difference between an intermediate powerlifter and advanced, the technique's not going to be that much different. The advanced person is probably going to be quite consistent, but other than that, there's not this huge gap. Where we do see a huge gap, though, is in muscle mass. So obviously, the secret to that is just training like a bodybuilder. So I'm just going to be discussing that.
Yeah, we actually, to build muscle, you've got to train with modalities that
That's
allow
it.
you to actually build muscle. So bodybuilding,
That's it.
which is, yeah, so it's definitely something that we push heavily down at Strength Culture. And like, just to throw someone out there, Jason Stupas, for example, most people would look at him and be like, oh, he's trains very specifically powerlifting. But a lot of the time he is doing bodybuilding style training. He loves that. He enjoys that training. And I think that's a big part of training as well, is you're probably going to get more out of something you enjoy. But he's someone that slams bodybuilding style training. And when we need to go more specific, he does heading into comps and stuff. But right now, being in lockdown, he's doing heaps of bodybuilding style training. And then, so I guess
I'll just touch on Stupas. I'll just mention someone like Stupas, obviously throughout his training for the last 2-3 years, there's been plenty of bodybuilding work in there. But what you probably don't see is that 3+ years ago, he wasn't powerlifting at all. He did many, many years of bodybuilding training. If you asked him, he'd probably say it wasn't maybe the most logical training. It wasn't the most structured, but it built him a base. And that's allowed him to make the leaps and bounds that he can make now when he decides to lift heavy weights. He's built a solid base, and from there, he's in a much better position than if he hadn't done that.
He also, one thing that I might add with Stupas is that he trains hard. And that's something that we often talk about. And I know you've been making a lot of posts on social media about it as of late, is proximity to failure and actually making the sets that you do count, because there is a lot of junk volume in people's programs. And Stupas, when you give him an RPE 8, RPE 9, you know he's going to be 1 rep away from true maximal failure. So that's something that with bodybuilding training or hypertrophy training is critical, that you have to push. And Stupas is the true epitome of that.
He works hard.
100%. He works damn hard. So I guess I'll touch on my topic. Now. So my topic was really the processes of learning. Was probably over the last year, heavily have been influenced by this, because I started learning the guitar, which Didier was there for session 1 with Gabriel in the gym, and I couldn't even strum, couldn't hold the writ. Like it's kind of cool to see how bad you can be at something, and then a year later, it's been nearly a year, can pretty much bang out songs at ease, and it's pretty cool. So that was where that sort of started. I'm like, well, I've gone and learnt this new skill. I found that a lot of the processes I went to were just the applied skills that I'd taken from motor learning and development of teaching someone how to move in the power lifts, in normal human movement, and then applying that to teaching myself guitar. Along with that, listened to a couple of books that really influenced my thought process and thinking about that. And one was The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Doidge, I believe his name is. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm going to read it phonetically, Doidge. And James Clear, Atomic Habits. 2 books that really influenced me. One was obviously developing habits to actually learn a new skill. And the second was then what is actually happening to the brain when we do learn a new skill, how it develops new neurons through neurogenesis, and how those neurons fire together and wire together over time to make skills more effective and efficient. So I was like, I'm going to put this into a talk, because I feel like it's going to help coaches potentially teach movement and understand what is happening. But also if someone wants to go and learn a new skill, which we probably neglect, I feel, as we get older, we tend to just stick to what we know and what we do best. And we like being that bad at guitar. The first 3 months it was pretty boring. It's just, wasn't really seeing couldn't play a song, couldn't really hold chords. My fingers felt weak, and, they used to shake and hurt. And so it can be quite deflating to start a new skill. So I was like, I just want to put this all in a talk, and this is going to be my talk, because I think it ties in quite well with what we do as coaches and as strength and hypertrophy enthusiasts, as well as just learning new skills. So that's what I'll be touching on at the Strength Congress. Last year, I spoke about RPE, which I kind of wanted to steer away from the traditional sort of powerlifting and programming stuff and go a little bit on a different route.
We've kind of done a switch. Yours was more training related last year and mine wasn't. And now I'm doing training related and you're not. So
Exactly. I want to try and, speaking of learning, I'm trying to use the Strength Congress each year as a chance to sort of dive into a topic that I can potentially learn more about. And so this time I'm trying to use it to learn more about the brain, what's actually happening at the brain, the neural science behind it, which I'm actually waiting. I bought this crazy textbook, but waiting for it to come. Australia Post is struggling at the moment. I got 6 books that are meant to be coming, but it's been over 2 weeks. We'll see what happens. Now, the other thing is too, that one of the things that you've obviously taken forward now at Strength Culture is the Facebook page. So I want to hear a little bit about that. What can we expect with that going forward?
Yes. So those of you who are already in the Facebook group, you'd know that in the past we had Dr. Pete Coleman doing his weekly community Zoom. So he's going to be back this week. I'm not sure when this is coming out. It might be a bit late, but you'll be seeing him in there. So he's starting this Saturday. It's going to be fortnightly moving forward. If you're not in the Facebook group, definitely join it. If you check the bio of my Instagram, the gym's Instagram, or just go straight to our website, there's a link to the Facebook group in there. And you can join in on Pete's Zooms, or you can watch them later if you're not available at the particular time. On top of that, I'm going to be doing some educational content. So just going to talk about some topics related to training and nutrition. Hopefully we can get some feedback once they start coming out from people in the group, and you guys can suggest topics that you'd like me to go into. The first few I'm probably going to do nutrition related, just because I've had a few ideas and they kind of will link into each other. We'll do those for a few months. Once we've kind of done that, maybe focus on something training based, and then we'll go from there. So that's going to be in there weekly. So definitely join the Facebook group, Inner Strength Culture, if you haven't already, and there'll be a lot going on in there.
Yeah, just to clarify, you don't have to be part of the gym or a coached client to join it. You can.
Yeah, we have
just
250 or more members. We only coach about 100 or so people. So most of the people in there are either ex-clients or just people who follow us online, people from overseas. So wherever you are, whether or not you've been coached by us in the past, you're more than welcome to join. The more the merrier.
Yeah, awesome. And now I know you touched on nutrition being the first sort of couple that you want to do, which leads me to ask that you have been doing a nutrition course, I believe the ISSN.
So it's this Australian Sports Nutrition. It's kind of, they base the content similar to the ISSN. You can go sit the ISSN at the end if you want. I'll suss the pros and cons as to whether I'll do that. But yeah, they're kind of linked. But yeah, me, Jason Stupas, and Marcus LaGreca. I was about to call him E-Saints. Too much Instagram. But yeah, we've all been doing it, and yeah, it's been good. Yeah. Obviously it's a certification, and my first initial thoughts is that it was just, obviously you're not getting a university level qualification, but just straight off the bat, you could tell it was significantly better than the standard PT course you'd get. So that was good to see off the bat. Like, it just, the kind of the professionalism of it and just the quality information there. Definitely you could tell it was a bit above, which is good. You don't want to be spending your money. And
are you still doing that?
Yeah. So we've got about a month to go. So there's a few case studies to do, and then there's a practical at the end. So it'll finish by the end of September. 3 months. Yeah.
Crazy.
But it's definitely good.
I was going to ask, you go, you continue.
No, yeah, I was just going to say, it's funny though, like obviously within the course, I've definitely learned some stuff to do with kind of structuring like long-term periods of whether that's gaining or losing fat, gaining muscle or losing fat, obviously. But I think what's interesting is that when we've gone and done this nutrition course, it's not just the course itself that causes you to learn. Just because I'm dedicating a day of each week to doing that, as a result, I just start thinking more about nutrition. I start going and doing my own research as well. So yeah, I'm learning from the course. I'm glad I did it, but it's interesting. Like, you just find yourself just thinking more about the subject and then working things out for yourself and then doing your own research. So that's been a cool part of it as well. I think just if you spend a certain amount of time thinking about a certain subject, you're just bound to start understanding it at a deeper level and having a thirst to go and find more out yourself and kind of think more deeply about it.
Yeah, well, that's going to be part of my my talk. Is the brain loves repetition, so constant exposure. Whatever you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
get better at, expose yourself to it consistently, whether it's every day, every second day, but multiple times per week, constant exposure.
As a good as a good example of that, in lockdown, I started skateboarding. So it was probably around the start of June, July. So it's been a few months now. I'm probably not doing it as frequently as I was at the start because now I've been riding my bike as well. But definitely, I found it's a very similar experience to how you talk about with the guitar. Like at the start, like feeling very uncoordinated, no idea what's going on. Like my calves would be so sore, my traps would be sore because I'd be tensing my arms up to kind of balance myself. I was like, I'm never like, I felt like I'd never improve. But over time, bit by bit, you realize, oh, I'm kind of, I'm cruising around the park. I'm holding on. Starting to learn some tricks and stuff. So it's interesting. Like at the start, you just feel like, how could I ever do this? Like this is so difficult. But repetition back then in June, July, August, I was riding 3-4 times a week. Just quite consistently, quite frequently. And yeah, before you know it, it's not that hard anymore.
100%. It's the same as with the road bike. So it's been just over 2 months now, been going on bike rides, and my average speed was 19 kilometers per hour, which is pretty shit. And the other day I went for a ride and rode for nearly 90 minutes and was averaging nearly 24 kilometers an hour. And so it's pretty cool to see the progression in something when you start it. And just to give you some context, so the Tour de France is on right now, and those guys sit at about 50 kilometers per hour. And they're doing that. The last night's stage was 160 kilometers. The night before was 160 kilometers, and they're finishing those stages in about 3.5 hours, which is just crazy to think. And I'm chugging along at 22, 23 kilometers an hour average speed. I picked up going down a hill on Beach Road, 54 kilometers an hour. And I was like, that's what those guys are.
That's how fast they're going.
On flats. So
it'd be no different to like someone, maybe doing their first powerlifting comp and like, oh, let me look up the world records. You'd be like, what? Someone's squatting 320 kilos under 83. You'd be like, it'd be unfathomable, but it's no different. Like they're just the elite of the elite. Like
they're the best of the best. It just gives you a bit more context. Like I like
of how good they really are. Yeah.
But
even me, like when I'll quickly say when I was riding around kind of the trails before we had the 5K rule, I was able to go a bit faster. I felt like I was pushing, and then there'd be these guys in like full lycra just flying past you. I'm like, every like exertion, every time they push down the pedals, they're just giving so much more than I can give. It's just unfathomable how much force they can produce.
I see the guy. I see them down on Beach Road just fanging it like these old guys, just punching it. But like they've probably been doing it for years on end and training for that task specifically. So it's all relative. But I just like to apply the same principles as what we say with training. It's like it's not the outcome, just it is the process, and to just enjoy the process. And for me, the cycling is more, which I did a YouTube video that will be coming out this Sunday on why I started cycling. And it's more just the process. It's like enjoying it. Hopefully have some carryover to my strength training with an improved aerobic energy system, but also just because we're in a lockdown year, we don't have any comps. I'm just doing something that is different, a bit novel, and breaks the monotony of just strength training, which is similar to probably why you have started doing some bodybuilding style training. Obviously, you started with your new coach, which I'm going to ask you about now, but you had the hindrance of lockdown 2.0, which kind of affected that. So who have you started working with?
Yeah, so I've started working with Jeff Alberts from 3DMJ. So my initial plan was to powerlift through this year, do junior nats, maybe do one comp at the end of the year. Obviously, being coached by you, I've been coached by Charlie for about 3 years. But then when we kind of worked out that there's not going to be any comps in Melbourne, I thought, I'm just that, and combined with not having access to a gym, I shouldn't say that, because when we still had access to strength culture, I had the intention to start bodybuilding anyway, because my whole plan was to start in 2021 and just not powerlift for that year. But then I thought, I'm not going to spin my wheels. I'll just start what I intended to do. So I got in contact. They had spaces open, and yeah, I've been working with Jeff for one block now. So we just finished up the first 5 weeks of training. It was funny. I Skyped him like very early on a Thursday morning. And that was the same day we realized we'd have no access to strength culture. So in the Skype, I was like, oh yeah, I've got a full gym, plenty of variations to do. And then like after the 2 weeks later in the first update, I'm like, yeah, so kind of change of plans. I'm at home now. I don't have a lot of equipment, but I've been making do. Like I've got a light barbell. Upper body's pretty easy with push-up variations and stuff like that. I've got a pull-up bar. So yeah, it's been all right. Obviously with bodybuilding, equipment matters far less, and that's something I'd kind of say to everyone. If you're at home now and you're kind of not motivated with training, just kind of disregard strength. We know in Melbourne we're not going to have gyms for probably at least another 3 months. So you have this time. It's not a waiting game. It's not will we be open next month? It's not going to happen. Think about it. You've got 3 months now. You can dedicate some training towards putting some muscle on. And if you like strength training, that's definitely going to help you once 2021 rolls around and we're back in the gym. But yeah, so it's been good. And funny, you were talking before about like working hard. Obviously, it's very important for building muscle. I think through this process, having to do some really high rep sets of split squats just because I don't have much weight, I've realized it's kind of the whole David Goggins like 40% rule. When you think you're working at like 100%, you're only working 40%. Obviously, he's a nutcase, and I don't think like it's not that extreme. But I've done some sets where I'm like, oh yeah, I could finish up, and I'm like, nah, I reckon I've got more, and I'll do like 5 more reps. So it just makes you think like how hard you're actually working sometimes. Obviously, with heavy lifts, if you do a set of 3, you know that you're pretty close to failure. When it's like 10 plus reps, like rep 10 or 15 will feel hard, but it doesn't mean you couldn't do 5 more reps. So I think that's been a good kind of experience for me, just to be critical of my own kind of perception of how hard I'm working, and then hopefully I can relay that to clients as well. Just push yourself. You'll be surprised what happens.
It's definitely, I go through patches like that with my own training where it's, with the strength stuff, it's a little bit, when I'm hitting 3s, 4s, 5s, it's a little bit more like, I know, but it definitely, the sets of 10, 12, 15, you can, because 15 reps is quite hard, but a 15 reps at RP6 is damn hard as well. So you need to, you really need to sort of go to max to failure to sort of see where what you're capable of. And obviously you can't, I think with my own experiences, maintaining that true like 100% effort all the time isn't always possible. There are going to be sessions where you probably just need to take the foot off the throttle a little bit, but it is cool to see how far you can actually go, because I've been doing my knee rehab stuff because I've had left patellar tendinopathy for the last few months, and it sort of flared up again in lockdown since I haven't had access to the leg extension. So I've been doing some of the rehab exercises Dan gave me, and same thing. He wanted me going to like pretty much close to failure, and so I do it on the stairs. You can see the stairs behind me there. Just do like a one-legged squat on the stairs, and same thing. Like when I think I'm done, I just keep going, and it's cool to see how many more reps you actually have with like a low threshold body weight movement. And I'll pump out another 5 when I thought I was done 5 ago. So yeah, it is pretty cool to see. How is so? What are the goals that you've set with your new coach?
Yeah, so I basically just told him that I want to spend 1 to 2 years just focusing on body composition, trying to basically put on as much muscle as possible. That was basically it. So he has started us with a cut just to get like pretty lean. Like when this cut will be over, I will be probably about as lean as I've ever been, just to then give us the room to, have 18 months of like slow, steady surplus, obviously with mini cuts in there. But yeah, it'll be good. It hopefully will be done by about February, the cut, January, February, and then it'll just be kind of long-term, like 1+ years of surplus and slamming bodybuilding, with the added benefit of having access to a gym. Yeah, exactly. when that rolls around.
Exactly. What macros have you started on?
It's pretty low. So we were at we were at 250 to 300 carbs on low days, 50 to 70 fat, and 200 protein. And then it was just higher carbs on the high days, but that's dropped a bit now. But I've been upping my activity a bit because I think I took for granted, because same thing, when as soon as I started working with him, that's when the restrictions got like really bad. So I don't think I realized how many less steps I'd be doing. So I'm trying to be more just more aware of getting more steps in, going for more bike rides, just stuff like that. Because like within that week, I dropped an average of like 5,000 steps per day. So obviously that's going to have a major impact on how many calories you're burning. So I'm being aware of that, just so I don't have to go like stupidly low food. Obviously we don't want to do that if we don't have to.
The gym floor, not working on the gym floor, you lose a whole lot of steps. And
man, like
I was the same.
You get like 1,000 an hour without even trying. Like, so you do a 5-hour shift, like
it's 5,000 steps.
Crazy. Like you sort it. And if it's busy, more like.
Last lockdown, I was pretty lazy. The first lockdown, because we get lucky, we get 2 in Melbourne. First lockdown, I was getting 3,000-4,000 steps some days. I just was not making any effort to walk, nothing. And I made that post on Instagram the other day about it. Something I've definitely improved, and been hitting 10,000 average for the last month, a weekly average, which has been cool. But you do have to make the effort to get out and walk, because sitting at home all day, you can easily wind up doing 2,000-3,000 steps and not moving. So like I've already walked this morning. I've got 4,500, and I'll go for another one this afternoon.
Monday's my like my big laptop day. I do all the client check-ins, video reviews, write some programs. So sometimes it'll roll to like 4:00, and I wouldn't have done 1,000 steps. I was like, who am I? Like, this is like, I usually get 10,000 without even trying. Like I feel for people who work desk jobs, because
that's where you just got to put some strategies in place.
You've got to, because if you don't, dinner rolls around and you're like, fuck, I've got 8,000 steps to do. Like, how are you going to do it? Like, it's just not going to happen. So obviously you've got to get him out early throughout the day. You can't just wait till
8,000 for me is about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes of straight walking. So I know that I don't like to do that, so I break it up. Even just getting outside, just like moving, like making the conscious effort to move a bit more, get up. I might just walk to the driveway and back, and you get a couple hundred there, and just do little things like that. And it does add up over the day, but splitting up my walks across like twice a day helps heaps, because if I get to the end of the day and I've got 8,000, I'm like, fuck. I feel so so splitting
manageable
it up.
chunks definitely helps.
If you're someone that is working in a office job or sedentary, like making little efforts like to park your car a bit further away, or get off at the train station earlier than you normally do, and walk that 15-20 minutes, because they do accumulate quite quickly if you do little strategies like that.
Yes, especially like some big shopping centers. If you don't park near the door, like it can be a fairly big walk from wherever you park, and it's only going to take you 5 extra minutes. But in those 5 minutes, you're going to get a decent amount of steps.
Yeah,
and then on the way back, you double
steps.
it. Like
you get 500 steps on the way there, on the way back. When you're in the supermarket, walking up and down the aisles, just little tidbits for
walk over every aisle. Yeah,
that's it. Done. All right, man. We'll wrap it up, because today's episode was we had a guest, but we had to postpone it. We've got a guest coming on this Saturday. It was meant to be the episode for today, but unfortunately we had to postpone. So we'll be out tomorrow, which will be awesome. But if you're listening to this and you are interested in the Strength Congress, please go to the website, purchase a ticket. We'd really, really appreciate it. Have you got any last words for us, Dids, to wrap up the show? Any words of wisdom?
Just with the Congress, I had someone ask on Instagram, if you can't make that particular time, if you buy tickets for the how do I word this? If you buy tickets for the event itself, you get 7 days of playback. So if you can't make the whole weekend, or if you can't make it at all, if you do that, you're going to get 7 days anyway. So that's not an issue. If you can always watch it. later
I
in the
think,
week.
what have we got? Is it 10 people? 9, 10 people? I don't know. But this stuff.
I think something like that.
Yeah, 9, 10
Yeah, so
talks.
it's gonna
Even if all the topics don't interest you, I think for the price point, even if there's 3, 4, 5 topics that you want to listen to, I think it's very, very, very valuable. And you do get that
definitely getting
7-day replay.
9, 10 talks for $59. Yeah, it's pretty good deal, I reckon.
So even if you only want to listen to 4 or 5 of them, that's $10 a talk, and
still a bargain.
Exactly, bargain hunters. Anyway, man, we'll wrap it up. Thanks for jumping on today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
We'll see you all in the next episode.